right, so we're here at the American Black Film Festival, and we're kicking off today's festivities with Drew Allyn, who is premiering his very first feature film, well, short film, very short film, called Penny in the Sky.
Yes.
So I just want to jump right into it,
Sure.
Drew, because this story deals with very heavy subject matter, and that is something that a lot of people don't like to talk about in the Black community especially, which is suicide and suicidal ideation. So why did you want to tell this story?
It was very personal, but kind of on the same thing you hit on. It's like there are not a lot of pieces of art that kind of reflect Black mental health struggles, all these things. And it's one of those things that has to be kind of dealt with a careful hand. It's so easy to like really just be heavy-handed with it. And that is something that a lot of people don't want to engage with. Either it feels too heavy or it's not a conversation they want to have. So my hope was to tell this kind of story with a lighter touch to get people who have felt these things and dealt with these feelings to see themselves in it, but also feel understood, seen, but hopeful. And in doing that, I'm like trying to add some lightness, some levity, some optimism into a film that touches on such deep, dark things that doesn't get talked about. And I don't know, I think the thought that this is kind of, I don't want to say taboo, but it's not something that we talk about a lot. I think that made me want to tell it more because I'm like, when I'm dealing with these things, when I'm feeling these dark feelings, where am I turning to? What media, what films, what art is reflecting what I'm feeling? And when there is none, it's like, okay, well, what can I do to fill the void?
And I was speaking of that because you said this is a personal story. It's almost autobiographical to an extent, but you shared that you yourself have suffered with, feelings of depression and suicide, but you had a friend who would come over to vent to you about what they were going through, and then you just being there listening to them, that allowed you to it brought you some healing on your end to where you realized, was it a realization of, I'm not the only one going through this, or me just listening to someone else sort of internally helps me get through my struggle?
It's a little bit of both. I think at that time it was this sort of comfort that somebody else felt like I was a safe space when I didn't really feel safe to myself. And so, like I said, I didn't even tell them that I was also dealing with it. But knowing that they were going through it and I could kind of ease them out of it, that we could talk about other things, me putting my attention and effort on getting them out of their head also helped me get out of mine. And I don't know, it was just the sense of knowing somebody could feel my care was like, okay, there's some value here. I feel pretty good knowing that somebody sees something in me worth getting them out of their own head.
What was that feeling for you when you started to slowly realize or come out of, that darkness where you felt like, okay, there is light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, I am going to be okay? What was that moment for you?
Honestly, I don't know if there's one big moment, but I remember the little things, like I went to visit a friend, and she told me, she's like, you seem lighter. And it's stuff like that makes you reflect, like, wow, okay, like one, people could see that I was like in my head or going through these things and like reflecting it externally. And so it's like, oh, okay, I feel lighter and people are seeing that. It makes you realize how far you've come. But I also think the fact that I was able to tell this story was a big marker for me, that I had gotten a bit of distance from the first time I had those feelings that led me to write it.
I would imagine, because when you are, and I think, most people can recognize this and speak to it. It's just something that is unspoken and they don't talk a lot about, but everybody goes through it. But when you are, I would imagine when you're in that space, when you're in under those dark clouds, it's hard to do anything really. There are some people who are what they call high functioning depressive, so they can still get up and go through the day. But when you're in it and you're suffering from it, you can barely get out of bed some days, let alone write a film. You know what I mean? But you found a way to do that. Was it something that, what was that motivating factor to get you to keep going, to finish the story?
Well, it's a good question because I couldn't finish it at first. So I tried to write it right after I got out of like a 3-year-long relationship and was just feeling all the things you feel in a breakup. And then immediately my grandma was hospitalized. And so that is like where I just sunk. And I tried to write through those feelings and I got maybe like a page, 2 pages in and could resonate with the character August of just those intense feelings where it feels like nothing is ever going to be better. But I didn't know Rose yet. I didn't know who you become after that. And so it wasn't until maybe 8 months or so later when my grandma actually passed and I had been dealing with that kind of numbness and depression that I finally understood, oh, this is the other perspective. This is the other character, somebody who's been dealing with this depression and it is less intense. It's just sort of a nothingness, a numbness. And that's when I was like, oh, I know who these 2 people on the cliff are now. And so in that is when I could finally finish it. And it took me maybe another year before somebody convinced me to bring it to life. I shared it with my co-director, who was just a close friend at the time. And she's like, Drew, you need to bring this to life. And so by that point I was like, okay, I think I am capable of like engaging with this story, with these themes again. And so that's when we start to get boots on the ground and figure out how to make it happen.
And then look at you now you're actually here at one of the big premiere festivals for African American artists, premiering your film. So
I'm so excited.
It's a testament to getting through the darkness because there is light, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, always.
Sure.
Did you find that writing process cathartic or healing?
I did, and it always kind of is when you're like processing life through a lens of characters that you can like put outside of yourself. And with these 2, it's like in writing the ending and the bit of optimism in there, it was also kind of me feeling the same thing of like you said, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so the version of myself that felt like I had dug myself out of that was very familiar now that, okay, these are the stages of these dark feelings. We can always find ourselves back on this cliffside, but I also now know that I can walk away from it, that I'm capable of bringing myself back from that ledge. I have friends that care about me, I have family that care about me that will, if I can't do it myself, they'll try to grab me and talk me through it too. So
community is so important.
100%.
Where are you in your journey today when it comes to both your mental health and your artistry?
Okay, my mental health is good. It's better than it was. I think I have a stronger relationship with my own personal feelings now. When you kind of see how bad it can get, and when you really start to, I've got enough distance where I can really start looking and reflecting on who I was and what I felt and how that got kind of externalized and showed up in friendships, relationships, at work, and look at it and be like, I never want to go back there. It doesn't feel like anybody I want to be. And I think that in itself is, for me, I'll give myself a pat on the shoulder because it's not something I was able to do while I was in it. And so I feel like I've become really resilient after that, and a lot more hopeful. Obviously, you still deal with days that are hard, and I try not to make sure. I try to make sure I'm not just running from the feelings, but letting myself feel them and process them.
Yep.
And what I found, I think, the most that has grown is my ability to kind of recognize what's taking me there, what's making me anxious, what situation am I in that's kind of fueling the depression.
Right.
And when I feel capable of it, what can I be doing to get myself out of that?
Right.
So I kind of equip myself with better tools if I do start to think that way.
That's the first step.
Yeah.
Is basically recognizing and acknowledging what you're feeling.
For sure.
Because then from there you can deduce why you might be feeling that way, and then come up with tools and strategies to help you get out of it.
Because if you're just feeling it, don't know what's going on, you're just reacting
going through the motions.
projecting, going through the motions.
You don't understand why. You know, what do you hope audiences, particularly Black audiences, take away from your film, Penny in the Sky?
I am hoping audiences, specifically Black audiences, find that they're able to engage in these themes without it feeling taboo.
Okay.
I think honestly, I more so want people who are feeling that way or have felt that way to feel not alone. That even though we might not talk about it that much, it's still very much a universal experience for people who have chronic depression or anything like that. So if they don't have the words to have those conversations, my hope is that the film can speak for them or to them. That's all I can ask. My co-director likes to think of it like this film can save somebody, and maybe it will. But
I mean, art's powerful.
It is. But I think the goal is always just to make somebody feel something.
Right.
Especially if they relate.
Yeah.
And can kind of look at it as like, okay, how do I get away from this ledge? How do I get off this cliffside?
Yeah. Last question for you. So how do we destigmatize the negative connotations around depression, suicide ideation? How do we destigmatize that?
Great questions. I am trying to figure that out myself.
I mean, there's one end of it when it comes to art, right? Because you know how powerful art is.
Yeah.
So you can watch a film, Penny in the Sky, see yourself reflected in August or Rose, and then say, okay, this is what I'm feeling and I recognize it because I'm watching somebody on screen going through what I'm going through or feeling what I'm feeling. I'm seeing how they handled it. Maybe I can use that, right? So that's one way. Art is always powerful in that way. But for you and from your perspective, just what do you think overall we can do as a community to help people get to the other side, or at least have the conversation?
Yeah, I think destigmatizing takes a lot of community work. I feel like it starts with just people being willing to listen, like truly listen when their friends are expressing things. I find it so hard to get people to, if they haven't dealt with it, to really understand what it feels like when it gets really bad. And so I don't always expect them to relate or empathize, but if they're willing to engage and understand, then it starts there. I wish on a holistic level there were better mental health resources just readily available and accessible. But I think it does start with conversation, and whatever it takes to spark those conversations, whether it be film or personal experience. Like I know our actors, I don't want to speak too much for them, but they've also dealt with either people who have close to them who have experienced things like this, or have their own mental health struggles, and it's like, okay, they're choosing to engage in this conversation through their work now. And so I think it's everybody finding that lane, that medium that they're willing to sit in those feelings, engage with it, and then I guess bring it to the outside world and start talking to people. Listen, I don't know how to start really the bigger question of how do we get better resources. but I know that's a hope. That's the wish.
Well, if people, first I think it's having the conversation about it, right? Because then if more people are talking about it, then they can collectively decide we need to do something about this, and then you start looking into ways to do it, and that's where the resources come in, right?
No, for sure.
But it has to be the conversation. I think that's what we were talking about at the beginning of our conversation. Is just it's something that is not talked about, is hidden, or people feel ashamed, and in the Black community, that's a whole religious aspect of that subject matter, and it can weigh on you, because if you are actually feeling this, but you've only grown up hearing, well, you'll go to hell if you kill yourself or something, then you don't know how to process your emotions properly.
And then there's the shame,
guilt,
for sure. No, you're right. I think it is one of those things. The more people are willing to talk about it and be open about the reality of it, the more people will be like, okay, this is a more collective thing than we thought. Let's find the resources. Let's figure out how to deal with this. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. No, I'm glad that we actually had the conversation. I'm glad you persisted and applied again with this film, that it was accepted. And I think, like you said, people just seeing it, I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I was intrigued doing the research on it about not only the film but your story as well. So it's conversations like this are very important. And so I'm looking forward to audiences being able to see what you created, and for more people to see this film. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.